Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the first video in the series of how to get your first internship. So this video is going to focus mainly on how to build your resume, how to start building a resume, the important aspects of a technical resume, and what recruiters look for. To start off this video, we're going to go over just a very simple starter resume. This is for people who've never built a resume before. So I've been reviewing a lot of friends' resumes, and one of their resumes looked something like this, except they had a big paragraph and one of their sentences was half finished. So basically they made the resume about 10 minutes before I reviewed their resume, but that resume was still better than not having a resume, because your resume is going to be your digital footprint for whenever you're applying to a job. Basically, it's better to have something than nothing, and you can always build off a resume like this. Now let's just go over quickly some of the things that could use improvement on this resume. First of all, Stevie Stevenson, that's great, but I have no way to contact him. It doesn't say his email, his phone number, what location he's in, anything that he's looking for. So it's really difficult to tell where he's from and if he would be a good fit for the company. And he does have a statement here about what he's seeking. That's good, but you don't really need it, especially when the rest of your resume doesn't really tell the recruiter much about you. He listed his skills, which is good, but again, the formatting, so you can see C is capitalized, Java is not. That's a small thing compared to the rest of the resume, but it's important because when a recruiter is looking at a bunch of resumes, if everything is really disjointed and hard for them to read, that's going to make them less likely to pick your resume and stop on your resume. He also listed the past employment, the education, all in side topics. That's good. But as you can see from the sentences of what he wrote about what he did, they aren't particularly gripping, and they don't really tell the recruiter very much about what his abilities are. Instead of saying, like, did technical work, he could say, executed process in Java that had some kind of impact. Again, using that verb, noun, and outcome formula. So let's go ahead and look at a sample good resume, and I'm going to link both of these down below so you can make a copy from Google Drive and just fill it in with your own information. So going over this resume, you can see that he's listed all of his contact info, his GitHub, which is really important if you're going for any kind of software development position, because then they can see how often you code. They can also look at sample pieces of your code. Listing your LinkedIn is important as well, because then they can easily see past employment history, if you guys have any similar connections, where else you've worked, and good things like that. And then, of course, the contact information, so they can contact you when they want to give you a job. And then over here, we're going into the next line of the header. You can see that we have the permanent employment and then present employment. This is really important because then employers can see if you're in the right location. Like, let's say they need an in-person job and you're miles and miles away and they can't afford to ship you out to where they are. It's really important for them to know where you are most of the time. And then also it's important to list that you're a US citizen, because for some jobs, like government security jobs, you need to be a US citizen. So if you're not, they can't hire you. They don't even want to look at your resume. And just listing it is going to separate you from other people and set you apart from the crowd. And then let's go into the education and the rest of the resume. Let me zoom out so we can see some of this formatting. As you can see on both sides, all the stuff that's bolded is on the sides so that it's symmetrical. That's important because when you're looking at like 500 resumes, having something that's easily like, okay, they went to this university, when did they go? Or when are they graduating? People can easily look to the right and see that. So going into education, it's important to list what university you went to if you studied at a university, or the coding bootcamp or whatever, and the location. Expected graduation date is super important, especially because a lot of recruiters are looking for interns or new hires, and this says, okay, are they going to be in the hiring season that I'm hiring for? And this will tell them right away. And if your GPA is like above a 3.0, I would list it. If it's not, just leave it off the resume. It's also important to put your major, because some people are majoring in computer engineering or some like electrical engineering, but they also have a computer background. So if you're a computer science major, that's going to be good to list. And if you have any kind of minor, also list that. The relevant courses, what that does is it tells them if you're like a sophomore or a freshman that you've taken data structures and algorithms, or you've taken another really important course for the role. Like, let's say they need someone who's good with databases, then you've already taken that course and it's listed and they know that. Next, going into employment. So it's really important with employment to list the location, when you had this employment, and the title you held. So those will all be in the header that they can easily see. So they can say, okay, they've had a technical role and they've had a non-technical role. And non-technical roles are okay to list, but of course technical roles are better. And non-technical roles show them that you've worked in a job before and that you're reliable. And if you have any kinds of references from that job, that could be helpful in landing your first software engineering tech internship. So now let's go into the basic formula of how you want to write your sentences below the employment. You basically want to say, I did something to a noun to receive an outcome. And if you have any kind of numbers you can attach to that, that's really, really good. So let's look at the second sentence here. Implemented a socket-linked system to save the company $500,000 per year. So people remember numbers, and they're going to see if you saved the company a bunch of money or if you did something else of an impact like this. So that's really important for your resume. And this doesn't even necessarily just need to be on technical roles you've held in the past, because this video series is on getting your first technical internship. So even for Chipotle here, we can see collaborated with other crew members to deliver a friendly, welcoming experience for customers. So that shows like what you did on the job and probably that you enjoyed working on the job and that you're dependable. Okay, so the next part of the resume is really important if you haven't had any past employment, and that's your personal side projects. So side projects show a recruiter that you're passionate about coding, that you've done some coding before, that you can take a project from start to finish with little or no advisement from others, which is really, really cool. So as you can see here, I listed personal website, and that's ongoing. And again, it's really important to list those dates. And this website, what it does is showcase past projects and interactive games. Basically, in the project section, you just want to tell them what each project is doing and then provide a link to the project. So that could be a GitHub, or if it's a live website, you could provide them that link. That's also really a great idea, because then they can go to your website, and if you have any games that you've made or anything else, they can click through those, and that'll help set you apart from other people. Now, it might seem really, really overwhelming at first to like, oh, I don't have any side projects, no one's going to hire me. Well, if you've done anything for school, you can list that as your side project. And a general format that I like to follow when I'm in the mood for making a side project, or when I'm trying to make something cool, is think of a problem that you could solve with technology. Even if it's like a really, really difficult problem, like helping students not get lost on campus, just trying to solve it even a little bit will be really, really good for learning how to code and showing people that you can solve hard problems. Because if you find a problem, especially that affects you, and you can find some sort of solution to it, there's going to be a lot more incentive for you to finish that problem, because you're like, okay, I want to use this technology myself. So for example, freshman year, I made this thing that was a calculator between different number systems, between like binary, hex, decimal, all that, and it generated random problems, and it did all this stuff. And there's already apps out there that do this, but building it myself really taught me a lot about like planning a project and how to show it to people, and just the consistency of working on something consistently. So that's kind of what these side projects will show to recruiters. And then just make sure you really list what this project was trying to accomplish, who it helped, if you collaborated with anyone, list that, what coding languages you used. So like, let's say all your side projects are in Java and XML for Android apps, then you can list those technologies here, and they know you're pretty proficient in that because you've been using them for a while. And let's just again go through the formula of trying to show impact for these different projects and employments that you've worked at. So this first sentence here, streamlined efficiency, saving selected sample group an average of 30 minutes every day on their commute to and from school. So of course you can change selected sample group with like students of your school or something else, but we can see the 30 minutes every day. So that's a good number that's showing the recruiter that there was some like quantitative difference that your project made. Okay, so that's about it with side projects. And then we're going to get into skills, club involvement, and programming languages and environments. So some people say to list this at the top, so then the recruiters can see everything that you're good at all right at the top. And that's great if a recruiter is actually looking at your resume. But if they're not, it's kind of okay to have this anywhere. So you're going to want to start with listing any kinds of club involvement or leadership. So you can list any clubs you've been a part of, or especially if you've been an officer in a club. So let's say, for example, you were the president of Successful Kids of America, just a random made-up organization. List what you did in that club. So in this case, organized events for other successful kids to do impactful things in the neighborhood. And then, like, again, put as many numbers as you can if there is any quantitative difference that you being in this club made. So since founding this club, crime rates in the area have gone down by 45%. Now, a lot of our clubs probably are not going to be that impactful, but you can see that there's a different number. So you're remembering these numbers throughout the resume, and they really stand out and show your impact. And then after you've listed all your leadership or club experience, you can go into the programming languages and environments you've used. So you can just have a list by proficiency. of the different languages you've used, any kind of source control, IDEs, and other kinds of technologies. And what this does is if your resume is being sent through an automated checker, which it is a lot of the time, you'll hit those keywords if you're proficient in Java or JavaScript or HTML. And that shows a recruiter that you've used these languages before, and you'll make it past the first line of defense into a company, which is usually some kind of automated checker. Now I'm going to go ahead and link this resume format in the description below. And of course, there's a lot of different great resumes that are going to give you great results. But in particular, this resume has been really successful for me. I interned at a place last summer, and I'm going to be interning somewhere again, and I use this resume format. So this is what I've found success with. If you have another resume format that you like to use, you could comment that below and help everyone out a little bit. Thank you for watching, and see you for the next video, which will be going over coding challenges and other interview tips for getting your first tech internship.